Have you ever noticed that some of the absolute smartest, most highly self-aware people you know just seemingly vanish from their social circles? It's kind of crazy, right? Welcome to This Explainer. This is a genuinely fascinating mystery that plays out every single day right in front of us. And today we're going to uncover exactly why it happened. So why do they disappear? Well, society tends to jump to a pretty quick, harsh conclusion here. When we ask this question, the immediate assumption is usually that these individuals have just grown cynical, or maybe they just outright hate people now. But what if that's entirely wrong? What if they haven't actually become antisocial at all, but instead they've discovered something deeply hidden about human behavior that the rest of the world just completely misses? I want you to think about your own life for a quick second. Have you ever just stopped replying to messages? Or maybe you started actively avoiding those small talk conversations, or found yourself feeling strangely disconnected from old friends you used to care a lot about? If any of that sounds familiar, let me assure you, you are absolutely not alone. Okay, let's dive into section 1, the quiet social transformation. And that brings us right into section 2, the power of pattern recognition. Psychologists have actually been studying this phenomenon pretty closely, and they note that this withdrawal, it's definitely not rooted in arrogance. What looks like someone abruptly disappearing from the outside is really a quiet, profound transformation happening on the inside. It's a massive shift in where self-aware people decide they're going to invest their emotional energy. You see, when highly aware people interact, they don't just passively look, they truly read others. And it starts with those tiny details we usually ignore. It's the fake smile that doesn't quite reach someone's eyes. It's that super polite compliment that when you really listen to it carries a heavy undertone of hidden jealousy. Or maybe it's the friend who magically remembers you exist the exact moment they need a favor, or worse, the person who claims to be your biggest supporter but literally disappears the second you achieve real success. Highly aware individuals begin to notice these subtle, fake social interactions absolutely everywhere. In psychology, there's a specific term for this: pattern recognition. Basically, it's the ability of the brain to rapidly connect behaviors that once seemed totally unrelated. The more self-awareness you gain, the faster your brain makes these connections. And honestly, once your brain starts recognizing these patterns, it is almost impossible to unsee them. People don't physically look different to you, but they begin to feel different. And this inevitably leads to a natural distancing. Not because you suddenly stopped caring about people, but because you realize that protecting your own peace is just infinitely wiser than trying to please everyone around you. Which leads us to section 3, escaping the social noise. Escaping all this noise happens because, frankly, the constant mental energy required to analyze the true intentions behind what people are saying becomes deeply, deeply exhausting. When you can clearly see the intentions behind the words, the noise of the world just gets way too loud. So you experience this complete internal shift. You move away from asking, how many people know me, which is really just a measure of shallow popularity, to a much more demanding question, who truly understands me? And I really want to emphasize here that they aren't acting superior. They are simply seeking genuine depth, rigorous honesty, and real meaning over shallow, surface-level interactions. Naturally, when you start valuing that kind of depth, your circle is going to get a whole lot smaller. All right, moving on to section 4, protecting your mental space. To really get the deeper psychological layers of why people act the way they do and how incredibly smart people learn to adapt to it, we can actually look to Carl Jung. Intelligent people eventually realize that the folks around them often aren't reacting to objective reality at all. They're actually just reacting to their own hidden fears. Think about it. That person constantly criticizing you, they might just secretly envy your progress. The colleague who constantly interrupts you, they probably just lack the confidence to sit and listen. Once you realize everyone is fighting their own internal battles, you just stop wasting your energy trying to fix people who don't actually want to change. Now, this requires a solid amount of emotional intelligence. That's the ability to understand your own and others' emotions without allowing them to completely control your decisions. So we really need to reframe this whole idea of social withdrawal. This is not emotional coldness. No way. This is maximum emotional intelligence in action. Highly aware people realize that saying yes to the wrong person or the wrong situation literally means saying no to their own mental peace. Let's look at section 5, falling in love with clarity. It is definitely time to address a massive societal myth about highly aware individuals and their apparent need for solitude. People naturally assume that intelligent individuals enjoy being alone because they just dislike others, that they are basically falling in love with loneliness. But the reality, it's the exact opposite. They are actually falling in love with clarity. For the very first time in their lives, silence stops feeling empty. It becomes a sanctuary, a dedicated space to finally hear their own thoughts without the deafening noise of other people's expectations weighing them down. And modern psychology fully backs this up, by the way. Healthy solitude vastly improves self-reflection and really aids in emotional regulation. It dramatically boosts your long-term decision-making skills. And most importantly, it builds real, lasting confidence that stems entirely from self-respect. These individuals are just using their alone time to recharge and build a much stronger version of themselves, a version that reads deeply, questions their own beliefs, and completely stops relying on the applause of a crowd for validation. Finally, we arrive at section 6, finding, not losing, yourself. Because the core truth that changes everything here is that intelligent people rarely just disappear overnight. It is never a sudden event. It's a slow, highly intentional process of letting go of connections that only seem to survive when they're useful. They aren't disappearing from the world, they stopped disappearing from themselves. And that right there is the ultimate cognitive reframe of this whole explainer. It might look super sudden to the outside world, but on the inside, this decision has been growing for months, maybe even years. They've shifted their core priorities from asking, how can I fit in, to asking, does this life actually reflect who I truly am? That isn't a disappearance, guys. That is a magnificent personal triumph. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If you found yourself quietly stepping back from certain people or situations recently, don't ask yourself if you're becoming antisocial. Ask yourself this instead. Are you running away from people, or are you finally walking toward the life that's truly meant for you? Because sometimes the people who seem to disappear aren't getting lost at all. They're finally finding themselves. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it gives you a powerful new lens to view your own journey through.